So this Helldivers 2 situation started off rather small. You had like 60, 70,000 negative reviews, and it slowly started building up because the initial thing was everyone was kicking off because you have to link a PSN account to Steam. And then when people started to realise that only 69 countries out of the entire world are actually able to create a PSN account, things got even worse, and it got to the point where there was a lot more backlash building up because Steam or Sony then removed the game from those countries that cannot have a PSN account. So if you live, for an example, in the Philippines, you cannot actually buy Helldivers 2 at all. But now it's got to the point where I'm going to say this is catastrophic. There's over 250,000 reviews recently for this game, and it's taken the game from around a 90% review score down to now 44%. It's mixed overall, but it's still dropping. And it's got to the point where the CEO of Arrowhead Game Studios has now started talking out, and there's a lot of frustration coming from multiple different directions within the regards to the PSN account linking. So the first thing is, I'll pop it up on screen. The CEO says, "It deeply saddens me that Helldivers game is also being review bombed due to the recent Helldivers 2 controversy. What's next? Review bombing Magicka and Gauntlet as well? Other PlayStation titles?" The original post was about Helldivers 1, which is unrelated to the situation with HD2. HD1 does not have a PSN login, so it doesn't make sense for people to target unrelated titles. This is about Helldivers 2 and the PSN linking policy. But then it leaves you with questions. If Helldivers 1 is an online game and doesn't have the link in, then why does Helldivers 2 have it? And it is absolutely not that the first game is unrelated to the second. Yeah, the controversy might be around the second game, but it's Helldivers 2. Helldivers 1 is naturally going to pick up some of that traction. And I mean, it's not awful for Helldivers 1, but it's not good that it's getting review bombed at all. I mean, it's only sitting at 55%. There's been 826 recent reviews, but if you look at the reviews, you filter it to negative. There are, like, the most of the recent negative reviews are talking about Helldivers 2. So there is the question, why are people targeting the first game? But when you build a game around a community, that community is going to come together. And when it comes to players venting their frustration, they're going to target anything they possibly can. Because there's always been a problem of gamers not having a big enough voice to get their opinions through, like to actually show their frustration. So one of the biggest things they can do is to review bomb a game, and it's really got out of hand. But I don't think Sony care about this at all, because the game has been removed from, I think it's 177 countries. But they also updated their FAQ to go from linking your account is optional to now saying some games may actually require linking. But then there were some questions asked, and the CEO responded, starting off with saying thank you for the civil questions, then going on to say, "We signed Helldivers 2 8 years ago. It doesn't specify details such as account linking. There are always requirements from publishers during development. This was one of them. We did discuss it, and it was deemed as important for PS to have it for an online title. And it was implemented a couple of months before launch. When servers exploded on launch, quick decisions had to be made, such as turning off linking and Galactic War Stats to be able to take the load off the servers. We couldn't enable it again because of the risk to explode the servers again, and remember the negative feedback around that. And now finally the requirement to re-enable came from PlayStation, in brackets to help with moderation, and we had to comply even though there were concerns there would be backlash. There was backlash, and I mean a huge amount of it, and now we're talking about it again. But the CEO has been rightfully dragged into it. You're the CEO of the development company behind the game, and the CEO is holding their hands up, taking accountability, saying, yes, I knew about this, and they knew about it from about 6 months before launch or something like that. But then people are saying, but yeah, you've chosen your publisher. You decided to let PlayStation publish your game, and this is what happens. And one of the biggest questions being fired towards the CEO is, why would you let the game be sold in all the countries where a PSN account isn't available if you know that that mandatory linking is actually going to take effect? Which I don't actually think is the CEO's job to answer, or the question to answer, because when it comes to selling a game, it's the publisher that chooses how the sales go. I don't think the development company have any impact on what happens when it comes to the sales of any game out there. Unless the development company also have like the ability to publish their own games, which is not the case here. Arrowhead developed it, Sony published it. There's been so much controversy around it, and honestly, I feel sorry for the gamers, but also the developers that Sony have completely ripped apart. Because could you imagine how bad it would feel to create something, spend months and months, if not years and years, creating something? You release it for the public to get their hands on, they absolutely love it, everyone comes together, and then all of a sudden, one decision from a higher up takes the positivity completely out of your product and replaces it with an absolute shitstorm. It must make the developers feel so bad, especially when they are one of the development companies that actually make games for gamers, for players to have fun, because the game is really good. But if Sony don't change things and do it fast, then absolutely nothing's going to turn around, because, as stated, there are 177 countries or something like that can no longer purchase the game at all. So at the moment, what we've got to do is wait for any news and updates and stuff to come from Sony. There was Discord talks about carry on review bombing the game from people within the Helldivers community. I think it was like community managers and stuff. They were saying to continue review bombing the game and stop playing it and things like that to show your frustrations, to give them some extra leverage when it comes to discussions with Sony, but I don't think that's going to make much of a difference at all. Sony are a big corporation, and I don't think they care about who they drag down, when they do it, why they do it, or how they do it. They go with their own policies, they decide what's right in their mind, and they don't give a shit about anyone or anything else. And it's incredibly sad to see, but that is exactly how things go within the gaming industry and plenty of other industries out there. When the higher-ups have a say, it's their way or the highway. There's absolutely nothing that can be done, but hopefully the discussions go well, Sony change some things around, and leave this fucking game alone, because Helldivers 2 did so much for the community, and within the matter of minutes, it went from really positive to incredibly negative. But that's going to do it for my update. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about this situation in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.